That's not the chance of the flag.
Okay, we'll call the board committee, walk in, city council order, please rise from the side, follow the line, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Alexander here, Councilmember Brandon here, Councilmember Brinker.
Here.
Councilmember Conklin. Councilmember Missouri. Here. Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Long.
Here. Approval of the minutes of October 21st. Sure.
I'll second.
Motion for a second for discussion, questions? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Public comments and requests, comments from residents or city taxpayers. Stand up and state your name and where you and your address, please.
Seth Kleinley, 2 West Clinton, right down the street. So this is my first, council meeting, but I watched the last one probably 3 or 4 times on YouTube. There is, ideas of what should be done with the music for the bars in the area. I have an idea. The city and the town has the floating stage with a built-in amphitheater. We also have Triangle Park. All the bars in the area could possibly serve food and or drinks with their temporary permits. It's not too far for anyone. What that does is that alleviates all the arguments and the noise from the rock and roll concerts that could now, since everyone's being asked to apply for what streets. I printed out the form to close roads. It says the following order of precedence. And the first is the individual resident. And then number 2 is resident business. When is this from? You know? Like, when was this made?
That was revised this year from what council requested last year.
When was the first time it came out? Like, did it come out because of COVID? Did it come out because it was requested for
We've always had forms for people to
the
do.
close, like parks?
Yeah, we just through the year
Right,
made it more in depth as.
right.
the need was
And it's very confusing to me. Cause it's kind of like, I would take it more as like for weddings, parks, graduations, as it states. Not necessarily turn Lock Haven into Bourbon Street. I've done my due diligence before I moved up the road. I called the ambulance center. And they said, we don't turn the sirens on till we're 3 blocks away. I've lived there for 2 years. I have not heard one loud ambulance, and I live across the street. I also live 2 blocks away from City Hall. I haven't heard sirens on. I haven't heard the bar that's across the street. However, if now we're having road closures throughout the city of Lock Haven, I feel like the choice I made, like people are saying, well, you should have thought about living by a bar or this, that, or the other thing. Well, I chose to. But what I didn't choose is to have the roads turn into loud amphitheaters. I have a dog that has severe anxiety. I had to give him anxiety medicine to take to the groomer today. And if I had a rock concert, 28 days, 3 days, any days that loud, he would be going nuts. I have a cat too, and there was a gentleman here, his cat hid, another resident. I'm just saying that I think that parks, the music, the open container. I worked at the Fallon back in early 2000s. If it was loud, the cops would close the door, like if we were trying to get air in there. And now we're gonna have Guns N' Roses blaring down the streets of Lock Haven. It is not good for the residents, and that's, I think, who, put everybody here. So that's my thing. And further, I helped work the door for one of the concerts a few weeks ago up at Haywood's OTG. It's the former Nine Irons. And I worked the door for 4 hours, and I was 50 feet away, like the noise ordinance. I couldn't hear for like a few hours afterwards. It is loud. So I do think if we're gonna do music, there needs to be a decibel level. I remember Mr. Councilmember Stevenson voted against diligently the open container law in the past. Dr. Brinker was, yours is common sense. I think it's common sense that we have an amphitheater built in already, but that's where we put music. And I think the bars and the restaurants should work with the city manager that's being paid, or the city organizer, to maybe serve the food and the booze down there, maybe pick 2 at a time. You close the main street for the Lock Haven jams and invite Ed Nesrode from the Shamrock up to maybe sell some stuff in the city parking lot or whatever. I'm all for music, and I know everybody here likes music. There's a couple people that are in bands in front of me. I just don't want to live where I cannot sleep at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and have my dog barking for 4 hours because there's 300 to 700 drunk people listening to Bon Jovi down the street from my house. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? All right, we'll move on. 4B 2025 budget funding requests.
Council is fortunate to have a lot of the service organizations who provide assistance in one way, shape, or form to residents of the community here this evening to make funding request presentations as part of the beginning of the 2025 fiscal year budget. And the traditional entities were invited to participate this evening, and first it's the Ross Library.
Hello, everyone. Joshua Hudson, Board President of the Ross Library here in town. I'm sure you've all had time to read Tammy's letter. Outlines some of the wonderful stories that have happened at the library. And I'm sure everyone is familiar with a lot of the services that we provide, and sometimes still learning some of the services that we provide. We're not just the place that you get books. We provide accessible information to people. We're a meeting place for parents to do drop-offs. We're a place that kids come and, they get their activities. In addition to the items that Tammy provided you, as a board, we've also been reinvesting in the people that help provide that for our budget, because everybody's in budget season right now. Just next year, we're proposing just an $18,000 increase just to bring up, I don't want to say livable wage, but a much more respectable wage than we have been providing in past years. So just to give you a place where we're at, just with helping the people that provide these wonderful things to our community. So we do appreciate everything that the city does for us. Thank you.
We know what, right, you know what the request was last year that we awarded them?
35,000.
Yeah, 30. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Downtown Lock Haven.
Hello, everybody. My name's Melissa Daly, and I'm the manager for Downtown Lock Haven. provided you all with a letter. I just kind of shared with you the work that I've done since joining downtown Lock Haven in June. We've had events every month. And I also explained we have a few other bigger projects that we are bringing to the city that will increase foot traffic, tourism, through creative tours and artwork. So downtown Lock Haven, you know, we've received support from you in the past. We did ask for a $4,000 increase based on these projects. A lot of these projects we've already started, and we have received a good amount of positive feedback. So I do believe that moving forward with these projects, they will benefit not only downtown, but the city of Lock Haven as well.
Have any questions? No? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Clinton County Historical Society,
Well, good evening. Thank you very much for support you've given to the Historical Society in the past. And I'm like the bad penny, I'm back here again to ask for some more. You've done such a good job. Thank you very much. There are two things I cited in the letter that I wrote to you that I think are important to talk about. We have a very significant property in our community, and that is the Ferensville Furnace. For those of you who are not aware, it was the very first hot blast furnace in North America. We have a big celebration coming up in 2026. And the Ferensville Furnace is an integral part of the Industrial Revolution from the 19th century. So it's important that we get the Ferensville Furnace in the very best state possible. At this point in time, it needs defoliation again. It needs a new roof. And we've got to figure out a way to seal the stone masonry on this, and I'll call it a building, in order to save it. We've applied for grants for this project, but it's something that we hope we can accomplish by 2026 to celebrate our 250th anniversary of this wonderful country. The other project I talked about in the letter was the Barton Street School, which was the last one-room school in Lock Haven. And it is in need of a roof also. It's also in need of some plumbing work, some electrical work, and work on the outside of the building. We use this building as a place to store some of our collection. So some of the really big pieces that we have in our collection are stored at the Barton Street School. So you can see it's very important that the integrity of the building be maintained. We have many other things that we have going on. There are always shutters to be repaired, windows to be replaced, blah, 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 one thing and another. This past year, we've placed another piece of rolling stock at the Castanea train station. So now we have a 1915 circa caboose, wooden caboose, along with the 1941 metal caboose and a boxcar from about the same era. And of course, our tenants, the Clinton Model Railroad Club, just do an absolutely fabulous job with their static display. And I think it's a very appropriate use of the Castanea train station. Also in preparation for 2026, you may remember that several years ago, we had a brick project and we did a patio in front of the Heisey Museum. And we've had so many people ask if we're going to be doing this again, that we decided it needed to be our public project for the year 2026. So the brick project is back. This year it's called The Bricks That Built America. And we have started a soft program to educate the community that this is something that's going to be available to you to participate in. We have several different brick sizes again, and also a very small brick that would be appropriate to put on your desk. And we're just in the process of getting the information about the brick project. So Thank you once again for your cooperation, and I know in my heart that every member of this council is a member of the Historical Society, right? Okay, thank you very much.
Any questions?
I did receive a letter tonight from the Historical Society requesting $3,000. Last year, the contribution was $2,000.
Any questions? None? Okay. Cold Stream Rescue. Consent.
I'm Katrina Armstrong. I'm a board member of Cold Stream Rescue, and I will be speaking on behalf of the rescue. We want to give an update on how we've been using the funding previously given to us by the council to assist cats within city limits. To date, the funding has been used to assist 59 cats. The majority helped have been found strays or cats that are part of feral colonies that have caretakers. 16 kittens and 1 adult cat have been taken into rescue through our organization, with 4 being transferred to the Clinton County SPCA and 5 transferred to Tiny Paws NICU. Working with the voucher program offered by the SPCA, 30 cats have been spayed or neutered, then returned to their colonies. 1 colony cat did have to be humanely euthanized due to severe health problems and suffering. We've also provided medical assistance to 3 owned cats. With the emphasis thus far being on trapped cats and our ability to utilize Clinton County vouchers, we've been able to stretch the current funding, and we have used $1,687 of the $2,500, with $813 remaining. So far, we've very minimally advertised this program to allow us to start slowly and focus on our trapping efforts for TNR. We believe that as we make the program more known, we will receive many more requests to assist with medical help and altering of owned cats. This will more quickly use the funding as well, since we won't be able to utilize vouchers. We'd like to thank the council for the funding we were previously given, and we'll continue to update on how we're using these and any additional funds. Thank you for your time.
Anyone have any questions? No? Thank you very much. Roads to Peace.
Roads to Peace was unable to be here this evening, but they did provide a letter for council's consideration of a donation. As a placeholder, council did provide $1,000 in the donation to Roads to Peace in the 2024 budget.
Clinton County SPCA.
Don't see that anyone from the SPCA is here. They're requesting $10,000. Last year, council did provide $5,000 in funding. And traditionally, that was $5,000 for the catch, spay, neuter, and release program, and $5,000 for the animal control officer. And with the absence of the animal control officer, it was reduced to $5,000 last year, which was provided.
They have animal control officers yet?
Not yet. At least according to the book.
Anyone else have questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any other requests?
I have none, Your Honor.
Unfinished business number 5A, consideration of tree closure request process update.
So I provided with council a memo, so you guys said you were going to discuss this evening. I went and met with downtown Lock Haven and the city planning office and researched what other municipalities our size are doing for street closures. So I did provide for you those samples from Millvale, Selinsgrove, Bloomsburg, and that might have been it. And then I also gave a suggestion. This is merely a suggestion, just so you guys have a jumping off point. Feel free to ignore all of the suggestions, but from what other municipalities do, I made 4 suggestions, one of which we already do. Requests must be submitted 60 days in advance, 90 days if it takes place along the state route, because that will have to go through PennDOT. Request to go before council for 2 meetings to allow time for the public to be notified. Businesses and organizations can only request a street to be closed for a specified number of times per calendar year, which would be determined by council. And if a business is requesting to close a street for the intent to increase revenue, a fee will be collected with the request. Fee to be determined by council. And that was something that I believe Bloomsburg and Selinsgrove do, and it is in there, in the sample set. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it'll be last week, so maybe sometime to review how much I don't know, obviously we don't know things. Any questions or comments or suggestions? Council?
I'm really liking this one here, under the Millville one, number 12. Signatures from 80% of all households or businesses within the area, indicating their consent must be submitted with the application.
Just as a whole, I really enjoy Millvale's. I think it's the most comprehensive of the 3. It's, you know, they have limitations that seem fair, such as like no street shall be closed for a block party more than once in a 30-day period. So it's not just on the business, it's that street once in a 30-day period. That street is once in a 30-day period, which then limits how much of a street closure and the impact on the residents and other businesses in the area.
Plus the community is involved.
Yeah, plus the
So it's
community
not just
involved, that's
one
moving
person.
around, yeah.
One business, 80% is requesting the use of that street.
Well, I think it also opens the door to say, I think we had somebody here last time who said, well, I'd like to be involved in that as well. And if we close the street for a block party or what have you, that more than one business could be involved, there would be an opportunity for. This was the most Millvale was the most comprehensive of the applications with the information. And I think it's good to change the idea of it to, it is a block party. It is that's really what it is. It's music, it's,
Alcohol.
yeah, there's a.
Drinks and food and.
Yeah, so it's a, it is a block party. So it is something I think regulated a little differently than your traditional activities like weddings. But I thought Millville's was the best of the 3 as well.
One of them had a time limit. It was Selinsgrove.
Yeah.
So when you look at Selinsgrove section 4, it specified what time. Theirs was midnight. Not sure if we want to have it midnight, but that's something you can consider too.
This is 11 there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, that was.
so that's something Millville did not have. I think we would adopt that policy. And I'd like to see that added to it. I think that would be wise.
I think the population or all of them, the examples had some good and some bad parts to them that we could utilize one time or another. I thought we were gonna talk about a date to request events tonight. That's what I thought we were gonna, it was proposed, and I'm not sure I agree with that. I would wait until somebody applies, and if they follow vote 1 and 2, to then discuss that and decide. If somebody may not apply, or you might get an overwhelming amount of apply. And then who should, well, I don't think we should regulate it to the point where if one place A has a band, place B wants a band at a different location, let them compete. We shouldn't specialize or monopolize one only. Let them, whoever has the best band or the best entertainment or whatever it may be. That's competition. We don't tell them what to put on their menus for special food special of the day. We don't regulate those things. And I'm not sure we should. We approve closing the block or not, and they have the rules to follow of what that party may be or that event. And I encourage competition, not so much a monopoly, but if 2 places have one at the same time, we shouldn't say, oh, let them have this, and oh, you can't this time. I don't think we should get into the weeds like that.
I understand what you're saying. The only reason I suggested what I put forward, and again, I'm not.
Yeah.
But was because you wouldn't want to be in a situation for the district plan and the street at the same time.
It would be-
More of a traffic issue than trying to. get
Traffic
one
has to
person.
be considered with the police and with the fire
Yeah.
for their means of egress.
That's why I was saying about,
And by setting the date, also, what if an event, what if a group came along in February or March? And said, wow, we just found out we had a chance to sponsor this statewide thing here in Lock Haven, and this is what we need, well, they would be way past that deadline. So I don't know, we should put deadlines, because if somebody applies, then they have to follow the 60 and 90 day rule winning. And I just been worried about coordinating all summer, and I don't know if it's fair for downtown Lock Haven to have to coordinate that. It's a competition between the bars, it's not anything we should regulate except for the street closure. Because we have a noise ordinance, we enforce that if necessary. So that's part of my opinion of, I think it's, don't wait till too late, because I know it is tough. Getting bands to sign up and the book that it needs some lead time and planning. Then you have to worry about rain dates. What are you gonna do if there's a rain out? You gotta give them the next weekend or the next choice. It's just too much to have to worry about. We have a lot of other things to do too. So I have more opinions, but I'll reserve.
no, please.
Because I like to hear, I was very quiet 2 weeks ago because I wanted to listen. You know, it takes you 2 years to learn how to talk, but it takes you 60 years to learn how to listen. So that's what I did. I listened the last 2 weeks ago. And I formed some opinion. I was glad for the input of the examples. It gave some ideas, but we would need to move forward with this, because I think the time is, I mean, we're at the end of the year. We start our summer concert meetings here real soon to book for next summer ourselves. So I know there's a crunch coming up. Anyway, I'll be quiet, relinquish the floor, and listen to some more input or banter. But please address the chair, not
On each other.
so we can monitor and keep some of these elements in order.
Well, I'm getting from 3 council members that they like a lot of what this is, and that's kind of the direction you were thinking. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think that the idea that we changed, that we had a specific policy that is related to street closures and block parties. That is separate and apart from our normal use request from using the public parks and using public spaces like using the entry or using the Triangle Park. I think the idea that we're gonna close the street and have a block party is different than the normal use request.
Sure.
And I think that that does call upon us to have a specific use request that addresses a lot of the things that go along with what does it mean when I want to close the street and have an event out on the street. And that's just, I think that Casey, you did a great job researching this and putting this together. I think there's some great ideas here, and I think it's something that we can build upon. That's my opinion.
We too have set up to this point a criteria to allow concerts. It's not quite fair to change it in the middle of the stream and now put additional regulations on somebody who had followed the paperwork, submitted it and followed what we had set up to that time. So we shouldn't be doing a big switch or adding additional things to the criteria until everybody would have a chance. If nobody would have applied, I think we could have done that. Somebody has applied.
That's
So
why I
what needed
said,
to be addressed.
and that's why I said last year, I
Only
brought
fair.
up my idea, which is fine if people don't want, but I felt that we need to talk about this. While the concerts last year were going on, and how we were gonna handle it coming into this year. So we wouldn't have put ourselves in this position, but we are in this position now. And how to best handle it. Comments from the floor and about what we're discussing. Please stand up, state your name clearly and where you live.
Vincent Case Ball, 105 Great Street, Lockton. So I think what Mr. Stevenson is proposing, goes against what we heard from our residents at the last meeting. The last meeting, we heard about one road closure being a nuisance to the residents around them, both in their travel through the town, as well as their independent living situations. And now Mr. Stevenson is suggesting that we move these into multiple streets, so now we have multiple residents complaining. The idea that road closures are fair for everybody it's non-existent. My business is going to be on a state road. Stella A's is on a state road. Main Street is on a state road. You're not going to close down Main Street for 14 weeks, so don't tell me it's fair. Nick Halichek from the Broken Axe, this council has already set a precedent in saying that a business is only allowed 3 closures.
This council did not say that. That did not come from the council. They clear that.
Didn't know.
The council did not tell him he was limited to three times. It's okay, I'm interrupting you because I don't want the misinformation out here. Council never rejected Nick for other things. There was nothing brought to us beyond that. So council did not reject it.
So is council going to shut down the road that the police station is on for 14 weeks in a row? I mean, I'm asking a viable question. If
Who
you're
said it would
going,
be that road? There's another road on the other side of him, the police station. is
so now
on.
you're telling him which roads he can close.
We have to tell everybody which road they can close.
How do you decide that?
Well, that's up to council, and the fact of the matter, and I'm only speaking for myself. And again, I don't vote on this, but that street has the police station on, you can't do that, but he does have another street on the other side of him. And nobody's saying we're gonna let it happen anyways, it's not, but the point is it's not limited to this one street that we can't close because the police station sits there. There is another street over there that you can take advantage
Could
of.
we pick streets as far as in front of your house?
Pardon me?
Like out towards the high school, like does it have to be in the business? Can it be still in city limits?
He's within the central business district.
I'm not talking about Keith, I'm talking about if I want to have one. Individual resident is number one on this street closure.
Greg, you had something?
Yeah, I do want to clarify, every application that comes in for a street closure is assessed by both the fire chief and by the police chief, or the chief of police for public safety.
Right.
They have to sign off on that before it ever were to come to
Right.
council. So, that kind of decision isn't specifically made by council as to which street.
Right.
If there was a public safety issue, that would be brought up by them.
This is I did watch another video, this is very similar, in my opinion, which could open up lawsuits, very similar to the issue that we had with the flags at Triangle Park. So if someone wants to have a drag party in front of a church, what's gonna happen if there's no alcohol? How are we gonna decide whose religion can be, can we close down a road for a religion? Can we close down a road for this? I had talked to 2 local sports teams and they both would like to use road closures for fundraisers, not alcohol and parties, but it could be a miniature golf course, face painting, or anything like that.
We need to get back to the
Right.
topic at hand, and Vinnie had the floor, I apologize.
Right, yeah, my
Vinnie had the floor, and we're talking about council setting a policy for street closures.
And I'm sorry, I
That's,
think,
that's the topic.
right, I'm sorry.
Am I
We're
correct?
going to keep this going, can't interrupt.
Is that right? Am I correct? The
Yeah.
topic is council setting a policy for street closures. Okay.
And so I'll continue. Talking about the Millville.
No bail.
No bail.
Vale, sorry. no veil policy. That at least takes in consideration of the residents that is surrounding that business. If the residents are against it, then the business should not be allowed to happen. And I know we're talking about there has been, you know, we've made decisions in the past and now, well, sometimes you have to make other decisions, the right decisions for your residents. And each time that I've been here, it's been residents speaking how a business is bothering them. That becomes a nuisance bar. The old corner has never been a nuisance bar. I've been in Lock Haven since 1995. And now all of a sudden, we're allowing bars to take over the streets. The city of Lock Haven does a great job with shutting down Main Street and running events. If we want to capitalize on them and you want to bring true tourism in, then that's the time to allow your restaurants to have open container. That's the time to allow your restaurants to move their seating onto the streets, not on some random Friday and Saturday. You are not bringing people into Lock Haven. All you're doing is taking the residents of Lock Haven and Mill Hall and you're putting them in one area. We have to work together as a community. I think there are great things that happen within the downtown that all businesses can take advantage of. There are enough public lots, there's enough public space where all restaurants within the town of Lock Haven can come and showcase their business. But to just open it up for 14 weeks straight, I don't think it's fair.
We already rejected the 14 weeks straight. That happened last week. Okay. Anyone else in the back, please stand and speak loudly so we can hear you.
Nicholas Horolchek from Broken Axe Brew House, 449 East Baldwin Street. When I applied previous times, I did, as this council has talked about in the last couple of meetings, I worked with Downtown Lock Haven. I worked with other businesses. I coordinated with them to be a community partner and was influenced to do specifically the 3 dates that I was given, the 4 dates I was given. I worked as a community partner to be a part of the community. So yes, that didn't need to come to council and didn't need to be a situation that disrupted the city, because I worked with community to do the things that were appropriate for my business and also appropriate for my neighbors, for the community. You know, when you allow somebody to basically bully the council into doing these long closures, this is ridiculous. We've got to a point where, you know, look at these suggestions from other cities. Most big cities, most small cities, they have events. They close down for those events. They coordinate with the community. They don't allow one specific business to have this much influence. That's it.
I think it's important, a couple of things. The request was denied last time. That request is off the table. So I hope everybody understands that, number one. And number two, I think it's really important. One of the things I've had a lot of contact with people is to understand the difference between the Downtown Lock Haven organization and City Council. The two organizations are separate from one another. Downtown Lock Haven is its own independent organization made up of business owners from the downtown, businesses and other people in the community. It is not governed nor controlled by the city. They do bring their requests to us, but the Downtown Lock Haven organization is a separate and complete entity, separate from City Council. So people understand that we don't tell Downtown Lock Haven what they should and shouldn't do.
Right, and my point was not that you didn't have other influences or however you chose to do it the 3 times. A statement was made that this council set a precedent by denying you, and we did not, because it did not come to us. We did not. Just wanted to clarify the record as well. Other comments?
Gail Nesselrode from the Shamrock. We are not in downtown Lock Haven. just to clarify that. Steve, I just want to clarify with you, is that just a suggestion that we compete with these other bars?
Well, I don't think we should get in the middle between bar A and bar B. To say you both can't have a band at the same time, because there could be more than one entertainment venue
So
going
kind of,
on, so if you wanna compete, we shouldn't tell which one of you not, you can't do.
Right.
We should, but 90%, 95% of counts, when the requests come in for almost anything, we have been supportive with a few adjustments sometimes, but we always welcome new ideas and old ideas and resurrection of events to bring business to downtown or into the city and all anywhere.
Well,
And we very rarely turn any requests down because that's just how the thought process is of
our
city council.
our purpose of trying to do something like this is so that we can make money, because the last 2 summers, we lost money because of the band that was, on the streets for all summer, every weekend. So now we are to follow the application, right, that you have. And that application, if everybody fills that out and the old corner fills it out for the 14 weeks. See what I'm saying? You still want us to compete.
I don't think we should run the monopoly, or we shouldn't run the pick who does what. I just think it should be fair competition. If you want to sponsor, I know OC spent tens of thousands of dollars on bands, and they put that investment in, and they expect a return on their investment. And plus providing entertainment, plus all everybody else's spin-off of what they created and generated downtown Los Angeles. And so and I'm not speaking for council, but sitting on here long enough to know that we support everybody on anything just about they want to do with a few adjustments. We don't try to regulate anything.
But we still need to fill out that application.
Well, you still have to have an application.
Do
Yes,
we have to have it by a certain date? I thought
not
that.
yet.
Okay.
We're still kind of talking
Okay,
about, that's part of what
Yeah,
the discussion
yeah,
about.
not yet.
Councilmember.
So one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid was The Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off, but Mr. Miyagi always talked about balance. We need to find balance because we're out of balance. If we allow every bar and restaurant in the city to pick and choose what weeks they are, the whole entire town can be shut down. Every side street can be shut down because currently right now, our standard of balance is you pick your week, 52 weeks, and we have to give it to you based on the model that we're just talking about. What we're looking at, if we were to adopt Millvale, it's balanced, in my view. Because now we have the community talking about residents, we're talking about businesses, we're talking, again, community. We're not talking about a profit. We're not talking about Vinny, he can't shut down the street, but he also has overhead of a square footage facility that he has to pay rent on, he has to heat, he has to provide electricity, air conditioning, which a street is free rent. Now, when we talked about fees, if you go in here and look at the fees, we're talking $50, $75. We're not talking $500 that these other communities thought it was in the best interest for their community to do this. So this isn't something we're creating. We are looking at the wisdom of the different communities saying, wow, we're in a situation, we should look what's best for the community. So when I look at this, I look at these 3 organizations, Bloomsburg, College Town, we're a college town. Selinsgrove, it's right next to Lewisburg, College Town. So we're comparing apples and oranges. And we're pretty darn close to where we're at in the fruit category with these. I think it would be wise for us to adopt this so that we are working with the balance so that not only the businesses compete, it's fair, they get one day a month, that street is, if 80% of the community agrees with it. Now we're bringing balance. That's what, I don't think we've had that in the past. And I think listening to the residents and the business owners, I think this is wise to do that.
I think staff needs some direction on where we want to go. We've heard from people in the audience who. Different council members, Steve's the only one that so far that I've heard that feels that we should just. Not try to control them anyway, therefore you could have two going on at the same time and more streets closed.
I feel like that's what got us here in the first place, is not creating, like Mr. Brinker said, Dr. Brinker said, a balance. So now we're here listening and we need to create something that gives everyone a voice or feels like they have a voice in the opinion of it, so.
We might do all this and go through all these and pick out the best parts and throw out the ones that don't apply to us. And we still might only have one place to apply. So you're doing a whole lot of work to wait until you have multiple people, or at least set the criteria. If they meet that criteria, then it would apply.
I think waiting is not the best.
That's how we got in this situation.
Well, and I think
We
we
didn't
got,
do anything.
we
about
got here
last year.
because we had COVID and we had.
Yeah.
We had that.
And
as
street
our-
closure.
And street closure was part of
Yeah.
that, and so, just, we didn't do a lot of that before. So now we have that and we recognize that that is a fun thing to do and it seems like people enjoy it. I just think it needs to have a. I think we need to regulate it, but I think we need to regulate it differently than we regulate the use of parks and those kind of facilities, because it's not exactly the same thing. It's a completely different thing, and it is for everybody, and for Gail, for Sean, for everybody who's doing it, it's a money-making venture, and I completely understand that, and I think it needs to be regulated as such. That's my opinion.
Somebody else in the back wanted to speak up. It's
Sean from the Old Corn, 205 North Third Street. When we were here 2 weeks ago, go back to Councilman Stevenson, I was under the impression we were gonna have some guidance on where to go with the closures. Now, everybody was in agreement in the last meeting, they don't wanna see it every weekend from the same business. But I also heard in that meeting that maybe 1 weekend a month, maybe 2 weekends a month. Where are we at with that? I mean, we're running against the clock to book stuff for next year and plan for next year. So my question is are we gonna look forward to 1 weekend a month and, it's a round robin? I mean, and back to Councilman Stevenson, when do we need to get our applications in? When are we gonna pick dates? When are we gonna, I understand that everybody can't shut down at the same time, and I'm not asking for that. But it is a very nice thing to do in the summer, and people do enjoy it. Absolutely, but everybody can take part of it. I'm okay. It's good. But to your point, Councilman Brinker, $57,000 is what I spent this year. Put these concerts on. So.
Your Honor, may I suggest that, based primarily on Millvale's application, which seems to have gotten the most positive comments this evening from council members, which includes a provision that a city street will only be closed once every 30 days, that we come back with a kind of more finalized policy for your consideration and adoption on the 18th. In the time being, with the understanding that the policy likely will state once every 30 days, the Director of Community Life will receive written letters, not applications, written letters of intent from any area business interested in a particular day to that they have an interest in closing a city street for the benefit of their local business, so that we could start to see what the interest is, gauge that. Those businesses should understand that the rules have not yet been cemented, but if they do have an interest in a particular day or multiple days, that they could certainly submit those letters in writing to the Director of Community Life so that the next meeting, when you adopt, we know exactly who to reach out to again. With the policy and application as soon as it's adopted by council.
Do I have someone who would like to move that?
I will motion.
Would you consider also adding to that, or maybe it's just instruction I can give you guys, that during this time, doctors give suggestions, maybe it's like highlight off things that you think we could change.
Yeah.
Send it individually, please, to city managers, so we're not having a the public discussion about it, but you send those things. And we can talk about that aspect of it at the next meeting. You know, from council's point of view, Casey did a nice job giving us suggestions, but I think we need to personalize it to what council feels the needs are here.
So can I amend my motion to what Greg said, and that council individually will email Greg by Friday at the latest with our feedback on what we would like to see for sure included from Millvale, or other ones that really stood out to us, and then Greg and Casey can take all of that feedback and present us with.
Do we really need a motion for that? Can't we just say?
Well, I said, we don't necessarily need to go through that part of the discussion, but the first part. What Greg's suggestion was.
And that can be part of the discussion. The next time, if we're gonna adopt dates, fees, and take examples from the other boroughs or councils or cities, then that ought to be that same discussion.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second? Yeah. Motion floor and second. Any further discussion on this?
Read the motion, please.
Pardon me?
Read the motion to it.
Come back with a more formal, the motion is that the administration come back with a more formal policy based primarily on the Millvale policy and application in front of you for your consideration at the November 18th meeting, with the understanding that that does include one closure on a particular street every 30 days. And that in the interim, letters of interest from local businesses who are interested in having city-owned street closed for a particular day next year. Those letters of interest will be received by the Director of Community Life prior to the next meeting, so that we know who has an interest in being part of that process sooner rather than later, so we can get them the applications as soon as they're approved.
Got a motion on the floor. Any other questions? One, go ahead.
So a lot of the applications, I would assume, would be based off of what that the city is going to charge per square foot of rental fee for outside street use.
Based on what the Millvale and I think it was Bloomsburg was the other one that had a fee, their per day fees. And it wasn't based on how much of the road you were closing, it was just per day, and it's like $50, I think Bloomsburg was 75. With additional fees if you wanted to rent trash cans from the city and things like that.
Yes, sir.
I'm here for residents, and I did hear 80%. How are you guys gonna figure out 80% of a street, like population? And that wasn't in that what he just read. Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Dr. Brinker both said about the residents, and Millville was 80% approval. And I would like that to be added in if that's possible. And how will that be counted, or how does Millville count that?
Well, that's part of the policy that council will consider. Yeah. The motion that was made is not to establish a policy, but to have the administration.
Not doing that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah,
Is there any chance we can get a copy of Millvale's policy? Like, can you put it on your website?
It's available on their website.
Oh, okay.
That's how we got it.
How do you spell Millvale?
Millvale.
Two L's and
Vale.
L-L?
Yeah, Mill and then Vale, yeah.
I have a question. Before we put up the bill, it's not, we can give our opinion when we send our emails on whether we want to do it just one time every 30 days, correct?
Yeah.
It's not set.
That's not what
Yeah.
the motion said. Motion said it will be restricted to once every 30 days. That's why I asked for the motion to come back on the same street.
Cause I want to think about that.
Well, you're not adopting that as a policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I simply said was that people should have an understanding that the Millville policy,
Okay,
that this will be partially.
so it's
based on,
not that.
does
set in
restrict it to
stone.
once every
Okay.
30 days. It's up to council when it adopts the
Okay.
policy, what it said.
Thank you for clearing that up for me.
And as usual, it's anything we do, it should be, it's a debate. Something we brought before, somebody may say, look, I see it have this, and other people on the council may say, okay, I can agree with that, if you read it. So we'll get to it in the end,
Okay,
how it will end up being, jury rules.
Okay.
However it is.
yeah,
Okay?
absolutely.
Any other questions? Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 5B, update on new police department funding awards. Yancy.
Myself and Chief Matt Ricker, together a memorandum for council, just an update on a couple of grants that were received recently, and also the police building project. The first kind of, particular order, I really don't remember what was awarded first, but we got a justice assistance grant for the Clinton County Tasers project. It's $136,890 of the awarded grant. It's 28 tasers for the Waukegan Police Department, Mill Hall Police Department, Pine Creek Township Department, Grenoble Borough, and Woodward Township Police Departments. We're working on purchasing those now, and those invoices should have them by the end of the year, operational. Another award for the incident-based reporting system compliance efforts. This is for the Waukegan Police Department reporting systems, some new computers and a new, it's NIRS, NIRS compliance software. That's $64,099. The last one on here on the front page is the recruitment incentives for law enforcement. This was a recent award for $14,000 and provides grant funds to cover associated costs with new officers obtaining their Act 120 certification. Reimburse costs for Act 120 tuition, application fees, psychological testing, and other costs. And this amount, $14,000, will pay for 2 officers to complete that certification, which is the budgeted vacancies that we have.
Question.
Yeah, sure.
May I ask the manager? I thought, and you can correct me, please, that for a police officer to apply, they already had to have Act 120.
Yeah.
I don't mind reimbursing them, but when it said then we'll pay for 2 officers to complete the certification, does that mean we have a couple officers that are not certified?
No.
No.
But where do you get the 2 to complete the certification?
We're opening applications, and on the job notice, it will say it will offer this opportunity.
For reimbursement of Act 120?
Correct.
Because we wanted them certified when they came on the job.
Correct.
That won't be the case now. So the civil service rules and regulations are being updated, which is pretty much a nationwide trend right now. So applicants will be able to apply without Act 120. They will receive their physical fitness test, their examination, both written and oral. Need to pass those prior to the city offering them the opportunity for this grant to pay the tuition for them to go to Act 120. When they pass Act 120, they would then become a probationary police officer with the city. So they actually would get a preliminary, right now we do a preliminary offer that is based on you passing a psychological exam. That would now be a preliminary offer based on you passing that plus the Act 120 requirement. So the grant itself pays for the municipality to send people to get that certification, which is opposite of what was required before, which is that you must come to us with Act 120. And with that, the last 4 times that we've sent out and advertised for applicants, we've received 1 applicant in the last 3 years. But we have numerous applications from people who do not have Act 120 that would like the opportunity to become a police officer, but do not yet have Act 120.
How far back will we reimburse?
No one. It's only for new hires.
Because I could visualize somebody that 5 years ago took it and
No.
passed and they came here to work.
It's a scholarship
Okay.
for a new hire to go obtain.
And the reason I asked is because I knew we only had 1 application a couple times, we only had a couple. But with a force as small as ours, 1 spot or 2 spots means a lot. Because you're paying overtime until they get certified, there's all those ramifications that we want to train people on the street. And I just didn't know if we wanted to wait for them to go through a year's worth of training to come on the job.
We have no choice. It's 6 months of training.
6 months.
And then there is a stipulation that they do have to stay on the force with for so long after receiving the scholarships.
The grant, stipulates 1 year, we can change that, but it has to be within the year.
Okay.
I think we talked at the committee about 5 years.
Yeah.
About 5 years.
Yeah.
But that was one of my next questions was, are we required to stay and work for us for a while?
Yeah.
You know, to.
Chief Rickard at our police relations committee said that kind of the timeline would be, they'd be able to start in January. So, they would get the applications, they would do all the testing, they would give that provisional offer. They would be able to start at the academy in January, finish that training in 6 months. And then they would spend the next 3 to 6 months as like a provisional officer and riding along with somebody and getting on the job Lock Haven training. And then this time next year, we would have 2 full officers, which is faster than what we have been able to hire without this grant, so.
Just further update on that, since your committee meeting on Tuesday, further investigation has provided that May would be the earliest start date for somebody to enter the academy, and then it would be 6 months after that, and they would be then here as our probationary officer.
And while they're on probation, if for some reason they're a big screw up and we let them go, is there a provision to reimburse us for the cost of that training?
All
If
of
they
that will
fail
be in the
themselves. Yeah, I'm just wondering if that.
Yeah,
was
there's
in there too.
there's an
Because if they have
agreement.
no skin in the game, you know, what are they have nothing to lose if they don't make their probation other than not have a job.
There's an agreement that will guide the entire thing. It's written by our labor council.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Andrew. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
You have to ask while you're at that spot or I'll forget.
yeah, are there any other questions on that front page? We now have confirmation for all of our pending funding for the Lock Haven Police Building. So we have secured $1,500,000, $1 million from the USDA Community Facilities Grant, leased to Senator Casey, and $500,000 from the local share account statewide grant. We also have borrowed funding, which council is aware, $2.4 million. That is for the police building and the remaining city staff, so not all for the police building. Greg made sure to make me say that. Right now we have estimated total project costs of $3.2 million. So a total amount of local borrowed funds to be used, that math is wrong, 1.7 million. Estimated timeline from our architects, bidding in the beginning of the year, groundbreaking around March 2025, construction April to August of 2026, and then will be operational by the fall of 2026. Few things to note.
with the USDA Community Facilities Grant, it's federal funding. There's recent updates to the FEMA environmental review requirements. And these requirements require the building be raised to at least 10 feet. In response to the 500-year flood level and the 3-foot freeboard. We've had discussions, lengthy discussions with this with USDA, our architects, and staff. And a revised design was created to create a 2-story building with operations on the 2nd floor and parking underneath. Basically, this raises the building 10 feet, but it allows us to park underneath and use that elevation for something. We unfortunately can't put anything in that 1st floor because it still needs to be flood protected, so it needs to be on the 2nd floor. So that is the reason for the total project increase. You're seeing that 3.2 as opposed to other previous discussions. Have to answer any questions on that.
2 more statements before questions are asked. Number 1, no, you cannot argue with them that we have a levy. They do not care.
Why'd you look at me?
Because I know exactly who was about to say that. But when the federal government holds $1 million, there's a must to argue about. And then the second, the mechanical equipment for the building were already designed to be on the roof of the building. So the elevation of the building so that parking can occur underneath it doesn't affect that aspect of the design. So it didn't result in anything very costly other than the installation of what the 1st ward used to completely look like, which is everything up on stilts. However, for the city's rendering, it will not appear that that is the way that is. There will be an entrance and an exit to that lower level, but it will actually look like a solid 1st floor from the street view.
It's probably not a bad idea. You also sent out something, and it's not on the agenda, about the hazard mitigation plan. And in that plan, there's provision there for funding to mitigate damage for flooding. So that might be another source of funding for you to say, you're making us elevate to the 500-year floodplain. Now, put up some bucks for it. You know what I'm saying? That would be a source to maybe look at to try to, because it's listed there in one of the 5 blue marks.
Yeah. And just so I didn't say this earlier, this 10-foot increase, it was about $500,000 of an increase for us.
But it does give the police the vehicles out of the weather, which is one of the things that they desperately wanted, was to have the vehicles.
Correct, and it does allow the sally port to then be underneath, so allows more space on that 2nd floor for.
It's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, it kind of all comes together.
But we had a cost factor when we first said about it. So now they're making us do it, so that's a little different than a want or a wish.
So I have a question about the grants that we were granted. So we are guaranteed these funds, correct? Like, we already have them, we're getting them, when will we see them?
We already have the 1 million, we're working through the environmental review for that now. Should have it like end of year. The local share account was just awarded this last month. Working through contracting now. We did have a lot of awards, so I'm told there's a little bit of a backlog, but I would say that end of the
I guess
year.
my question is with the election day tomorrow, does that affect, like, these are guaranteed funds?
These are guaranteed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
5D, correspondence from Lafayette City Authority.
The city received a letter from the city authority reiterating its intent to lend $350,000 to the city, and that the water filtration authority intends to lend $400,000 to the city to put towards the cost of Keller design and reimbursement. There's a meeting this Wednesday about the upcoming water system projects. And that is a meeting between Lock Haven City Council, the Central County Water Filtration Authority, and the Suburban Water Authority. That will all be hopefully present with representatives at that meeting. That takes place at 6 o'clock here on Wednesday.
So will we be discussing this at that time, or, I mean,
I would assume one of the items on the agenda that the filtration authority put out was the discussion of funding.
the design of the Keller, they want to design Keller now?
Right. And
6, the commission. That's the next.
yeah, the last time that this was issued in a letter, the city responded that if the solicitor, which is the same solicitor for the city authority and the filtration authority, could draw up an agreement for that and provide that, then the city would be able to go over that with Penvest to make sure it wouldn't jeopardize anything. And so, which is what Penvest asked us to do if we did engage in any other funding or did any work on Keller at all, that we go back to them. So that was from their chief counsel, that her request.
It's not marked as an action item, but do we have to tell the city authority will accept their loan?
I think as long as you have a quorum on Wednesday, you would be able to.
Because it's gonna be a public meeting. So there. Any other questions? 5E Youngdale Wellfield Archaeological Study.
Speaking of water projects, Youngdale is where the 2 wells for the city water system are located, and as part of that process of putting in a pipeline, the city needed to perform an archaeological study. It did find in that study 14 cherts, they're called. They're flakes when you make a tool out of stone that it creates flakes. Some of those are from early First Nation people, and others are from pre-contact. So exceptionally older than anybody could ever have written about history on this continent. So there were a few items, not many, and nothing as exciting as what was found at the airport where we found whole pots and the like. But those will be preserved through the William Penn Museum. And other than that, it looks like the way be clear to carry on with the planning and engineering for the final phase of the pipeline design.
Any questions on that?
So we're just going around the archaeological site. So we don't have to dig it up in a phase 2.
Yes, there were 2 different routes. Actually, there are 3 different routes, but there were 2 routes. As they started to investigate the one, they cautioned against continuing with that idea. Because it was very likely that was a settlement area. And so we directed them to go with the other area, and that turned out to be a better area without disturbance to any artifacts that may be in existence in the ground. That also means if you have an idea and want to have an archaeological dig, we have an idea where you might be able to find some stuff. And it wouldn't be anywhere that we own, I would say.
Any other questions on that? We have any other unfinished business?
I've none here on.
Okay, new business 6A, consideration of the ordinance number 2024-05.
This is the annual ordinance adopted by council that would set the non-union employee wages for the year 2025. Council does this each year in the fall. This year, the presentation for council's consideration is a 1.4% increase for regular employees. This excludes officers who have collective bargaining agreements, including the Lock Haven Police Officers Association and the AFSCME covered employees from Council 86, which are public works employees that are not foremen. This applies to a variety of individuals, which are shown in Exhibit A by their position. And it also shows Exhibit B is not set in stone. It is what is believed to be, according to the contracts, the union salaries and wages for next year, which is just there for informational purposes. The biggest difference I would point out is we have had issues with retention of part-time relief drivers and also had issues with attracting temporary part-time summer help in public works. Our neighboring municipalities and the university offer more competitive wages when it comes to part-time summer help than the city does. So both of those were proposed to be bumped up to $15 each from the current $13.18. You will see everybody else who isn't affected by a contractor agreement is set at 1.4% for their wage increase.
Who was our safety committee coordinator?
Safety committee coordinator is currently the chief of the fire police, or chief of the fire department.
Cause I see we already give him an extra 600, plus he gets an extra bump for being the administrator
Yes,
of 1.4%. So that can't be coordinated in his job duties.
it hasn't traditionally been, since I've been here, at least for the last 10 years, it's a separate stipend to be the head of the state certified safety committee. He ensures that everyone is trained in public safety, including like confined space, which he's about to do, for our other employees, which are beyond his regular job description duties in fire.
This is on first reading,
Correct.
as we know, it doesn't mean it's set in stone, because something could change for the second reading. Does anyone want to make a motion on what's in front of us currently?
I'll give the first reading.
I'll second.
Motion for the second, any questions or comments? Call for vote.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker. Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 6B, consideration of resolution number 2024-30.
The resolution to apply for the Main Street Matters program. We are applying in collaboration with Downtown Lock Haven for $75,000 to the program for a second round of facade grants through the Enhanced and Haven program. Previously, this was funded by the Keystone Communities program, that was ended by the state and revamped to this Main Street Matters, so it's a new name to us all. If awarded, businesses will be able to apply to Downtown Lock Haven for renovations to their facades. We did this in the past with $25,000, and we're able to help about 5 businesses. So we're looking to expand that.
Do I have a motion?
We did.
I will second.
And a second, any other questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Brandon.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 6C, update on 2025 Sunset Pines continued improvements.
As council certainly is aware and receives phone calls from time to time, Sunset Pines Stormwater is an ongoing process where the city has set aside its annual contributions, so to speak, from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's liquid fuels tax to accomplish repaving and stormwater improvement in that area. 2 weeks ago on Friday, we walked that area. The most probable area for improvement that will have a large stormwater impact is the first portion of Hemlock. And that goes basically on the straight part just before it starts to curve. And that will have a cost of $403,000 as a current estimate. That'll be included for council's consideration in Fund 35's budget for next year. That'll also be one of the projects that project manager Carter Simcox will begin to take on and provide council regular updates on the progress of that. I did provide the cost as well as a couple of the drawings for council in case any residents from that area do have questions for you. Feel free to forward that on. When it becomes a project that is included on the city's website, they'll be able to go there and download those documents themselves so they can see what's happening. As part of that, it does require that about 500 linear feet of a water main owned by Suburban Water Authority be relocated, and so a letter and documents went out to them today to alert them of that, so they can include that in their 2025 budget as well.
Questions on this? Okay. Do you have any other new business?
I have none, Your Honor.
Any council members who serve as liaison want to report on anything that you did a little bit earlier about the police committee? Anybody else have anything they want to bring, let the rest of council know? Anyone else have anything to bring before council? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned at